Did you know that W.E.B Dubois and Jcole are basically the same person? And look, I'm not saying that Jcole has a time machine. I'm also not saying that Jcole has traveled in time and is secretly actually W.E.B Dubois, and it is the secret to why he can rap so well. What I am saying though is that one thing that connects these two black men is that both have consistently used their platforms to encourage reflection rather than distraction. Neither built a legacy on having the loudest voice in the room. They built it by asking difficult questions and trusting their audience to wrestle with these answers. Today on Black in Style, we're looking at W.E.B Dubois. As per usual, we are never going to talk about a black man or woman on this thing without getting into their history. Let's jump into it. All right, let's get into some history. Now, William Edward Beauregard Du Bois was born on February 23rd, 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, just 3 years after the Civil War ended. This bro just missed slavery. Shout out to his parents. Actually, we'll talk about it later, but don't shout out to his parents. Unlike many black children of his generation, people who were pro-Civil War, Du Bois grew up in a relatively integrated northern community. That means he was everybody's black friend. Me, racist, I can never be. I know William Edward Beauregard Du Bois. When Du Bois was born, his father left him for a minute. When I say a minute, I mean years, man. Leaving his mother to raise him. You know, boo-hoo, sad story. Black American dad story. Despite financial struggles, Du Bois was always the smartest in his class, but he ain't even know it yet. Okay, I'm done, I promise. Teachers and neighbors quickly recognized this boy's brain was built different, so they actually raised money to help send him to college. Some will say he was hot dog, and they were trying to catch up to him. It's a real Jcole lyric. Go look it up. Growing up in a predominantly white town gave Du Bois a unique perspective. He learned that education could open doors, but he also became painfully aware that no amount of personal achievement could erase racial prejudice. Come on now, man. In 1885, Du Bois enrolled at HBCU called Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, otherwise known as the Black Yale. Or Yale is maybe the Black Fisk. The more you know. So he literally went from integration at its finest to segregation at its peak. He went from, yeah, man, black people are super cool, I like hanging out with them, to, if you look at me again, there's going to be something burning in your yard, boy. That's Now, as he encountered the full force of Jim Crow segregation, it was terrible. He witnessed separate schools, voter suppression, racial violence, and constant humiliation that black people endured daily. Now, Du Bois didn't let this bring him down, because during this time, he also traveled through rural Tennessee, teaching in black communities, where he saw firsthand the poverty left behind by slavery, and bro was shook. Like, this was unbelievable to him. It was so bad that he was recording saying, and I know this is a family show, I get it, you should be able to watch this video with your kids, and I know, but I'm going to tell you what he said. He said, to those people treating black people like that, kiss my butt. Sorry. Kiss my butt. After Fisk, Du Bois continued his education at Harvard University, earning a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and in 1885 became the first African American to receive a PhD from Harvard. Y'all thought I was playing when I said bro was smart. The first PhD black man. That's all I'm saying. He later studied at the University of Berlin in Germany, where he encountered a more merit-based academic environment, aka nobody cared that he was black. They just were like, you are super smart. There, he expanded his understanding of sociology, economics, and political science while developing an international perspective on race and colonialism. My tongue doesn't even like saying that word. However, he ended up leaving because his pockets couldn't keep up with his brain. He was literally working like crazy just to keep himself there. And student loans definitely weren't a thing, especially for a black man back then. After returning to the United States, Du Bois accepted a position at W.E.B University, where he published The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America. He also met his boo thing, Nina Gomer. Some would say they had a real love, you know, a dark-skinned Aunt Viv love. He then moved to the University of Pennsylvania and started studying the black people there. And in 1899, he published The Philadelphia Negro. Definitely read that. One of the first scientific sociological studies in American history. Not the very first one that was black people, but the first one that didn't want them to become slaves again. Crazy, I know. Now, rather than relying on stereotypes, Du Bois collected and detailed data about housing, employment, education, and health. This was crazy because at this point, only studies about black people there, like I said, it was literally just their lazy. They don't do anything. They just want to be slaves, guys. That's literally what every study said. Look it up. It's a fact. It's not a fact. His conclusion challenged the prevailing racist beliefs of the era that poverty among black Americans was not evidence because of inferiority, but it was a predictable result of discrimination and unequal opportunity. In other words, we're not lazy. Y'all just hating. And that basically formed his full ideology. In response to growing racial violence, Du Bois helped found the Niagara movement in 1905. And you may just be wondering, what racial violence? You haven't said anything about that. What cover could you be talking about? Let me tell you about the Atlanta race riot. After newspapers published false accusations against black men, white mobs attacked black neighborhoods throughout Atlanta. Businesses were destroyed. True. Innocent people were beaten. True. Now later on, Du Bois later recalled walking towards the scene where it was at, like it was completely over, not even going on anymore. And he walked by a shop and saw the severed knuckles on sale of the black people that they had killed. In a butcher shop. They were going to eat them. Cool. The image stayed with him for the rest of his life. It was like a crooked sky. Jcole, if you don't get out of here, this is serious, buddy. The riot convinced him that careful scholarship alone would never defeat racism. Organized political activism had become essential. So he joined the Niagara movement and demanded equal voting rights, integrated education, equal justice under the law, and an end to segregation. Crazy things. Who would ever want those things, right? Now, this movement was relatively short-lived. It established principles, though, that soon shaped a much larger organization. And no, I'm not talking about the UNIA. I see you people. Now, in 1909, Du Bois became the founders, or one of the founders, I should say, of the NAACP, aka the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Yep, he founded that. The more you know. So he took the role of the editor of The Crisis. This was the NAACP's magazine. And let me be very clear. In this magazine, he showed all the stuff that people weren't showing. In fact, he basically gave Martin Luther King the idea of, if you want the people to know how bad it is down here, you have to show it to them. That's what The Crisis was. It was showing everybody else, the South is kind of terrible to the black people. Now you can see it. Now, throughout the early 20th century, Du Bois increasingly turned his attention beyond the United States. Let me show you what this boy did. He organized several Pan-African Congresses, bringing together leaders from Africa, the Caribbeans, Europe, and the Americans, and he published The Negro, which is a global history of the African Americans during the time. He also wrote my second personal favorite book of his, called Dark Waters, Voices from Within the Veil. Definitely read that book. It's like a follow-up to The Souls of Black Folks. Really good book. Now, in 1934, W.E.B Du Bois found himself at odds with the NAACP. As the Great Depression was going on, he began to say, I don't think we need to care too much about political stuff anymore. We need a black state. We need to have our own stuff. We need our own black cruise ship, like Black Star. No, he still didn't agree with Garvey. Let me put that out there. But they also start to say, are you Garvey? Like, what are you doing? During this time, he took a step back because he was just like, let me think about this, because black separation sounded really good to him for a moment. Don't we know that feeling? Now, at the turn of the 20th century, so this is 1900s, keep up with that stuff, kids. You got to know that. Booker T. Washington was one of the most influential black African Americans. Not you. Get out of here. I'm not talking about him. Get him out of here. Washington encouraged African Americans to focus on vocational education, economic advancement, and patience while accepting segregation as a temporary reality. Or, in other words, y'all, let's just be slaves until the white people like us. Du Bois fundamentally disagreed with him, and so do I, but that's another video. He argued that civil rights could not wait. Black Americans deserved immediate voting rights, equal education, equal protection under the law, full citizenship, to be humans in America? What? Du Bois, you're crazy. In 1903, Du Bois took his beef to the pages, where he published The Souls of Black Folk, directly challenging Washington's ridiculousness. His philosophy. Now, this book introduced the concept of double consciousness, which, as a black person, you probably already know what this is, but it's that black Americans constantly viewed themselves through the eyes of society that denied their humanity. It's an amazing book. You should read it. There's actually one quote in the book that was about Booker T. It said, "But I will never beef with Booker for nothing. If I smoke him here, it's going to be legit. Not for clout, not for fame, or because my book's not selling the same." Now, before we disparage the things Booker T did, like the Atlanta Compromise, he basically was just like, literally, he was just like, We'll just work a little bit, and the white people will let us learn stuff. Isn't that great, guys? Like, we could just be slaves that know how to read now. Oh, Booker T. Oh, Booker T. Oh, Booker T. Now, before we disparage him, though, from that, we must note that the Easter rivalry was a defining intellectual debate in black history. Both black men ultimately sought the advancement of African Americans through different strategies. Just one of the strategies was dumb. In 1935, Du Bois published Black Reconstruction in America, overturning decades of accepted Civil War history. This is my number one favorite book of his. You should go read it. It will change the way you think about the Civil War. I promise you. Now, many historians at this time claimed that Reconstruction had failed because formerly enslaved people were just incapable of self-government. They just can't get it right over there. W.E.B. Du Bois rejected that interpretation, and he argued black Americans had played a central role in the rebuilding of the South after the Civil War, and that Reconstruction collapsed because of violent white resistance. That was it. Today, his interpretation is widely recognized as one of the most important works of American history scholarship because it was a black man telling white scholars, stop playing in my face. In 1944, W.E.B. Du Bois returned to the NAACP, but his growing support for Pan-Africanism, peace movements, and socialism, mostly socialism, definitely socialism, put him at odds with both the organization and the government. They don't like socialism, guys. In 1945, he attended the founding conference of the United Nations, where he advocated for the rights of colonized people all around the world. So, yeah, he kind of started the United Nations, if you ask me. Now, during the Cold War, he was indicted as an alleged foreign agent in 1951, but was acquitted, and that was the last straw for Mr. Du Bois. And he was disappointed by the continued racism in America, and Du Bois accepted an invitation from Ghana's first president, and guess what? He left immediately and was just like, I'm Ghanaian now. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. Now, on August 27, 1963, Du Bois actually died in Ghana just one day before the March on Washington. He actually is reported as sending a letter to Martin Luther King talking to him about the March on Washington. Now, he started an encyclopedia when he was in Ghana. It was called the Encyclopedia Africana, and he never would complete it. But it is always known that before he died, he was quoted saying, should this be my last breath, I'm blessed because it was purposeful. I never got to church to worship, Lord, but please be merciful. You made me versatile, well-rounded. Oh my goodness. Jcole, get out of here. Let's look at the man's style. All right, let's do the fun part. Let's look at his style, right? Now, he was very well known for wearing very tailored suits, wearing canes, had the hats. So let's look at his first outfit. This is when he was younger, right? Got the hat, got the cane, got the suit. I mean, I just said all this stuff, but I'm giving this a 10 out of 10, folks. Look at this brother. This man is dandy, man. I love this. Think about this. This man's the smartest man that's walking down the street, and he looks the best. I appreciate this. 10 out of 10. All right, outfit number 2. He's a little bit older now. Now, in all the pictures I found around this time, he looks so sad. And I get it. I'm going to give these all these outfits around this time period, I'm going to give them all a solid 7 out of 10 because bro was going through it. He actually lost a child, and he was sad a lot of the time. He was really sad, but his mustache looked amazing. 10 out of 10. I changed it. His mustache looked too good. All right, now let's go to the last one. This is his last latter days when he was really, really old. And when I tell you I could not find a bad outfit, 10 out of 10. W.E.B. Du Bois in his later years was one of the best dressed men I've ever seen in my life. These suits look amazing. These poses are amazing. He is the gold. And he was super smart. Don't forget that part. Don't forget that he was super cultured. This man started the NAACP, started the United Nations, basically. He did all those things and dressed like this. And Martin Luther King, I'm just saying, 10 out of 10 across the board, in my opinion. W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the best dressed men that ever graced the Black history books. That's been Black in Style. Can't wait to see you again next week.